Oh, you got it! Oh! Bites! Quick!
It's stuck around there. Oh, yes! It's free. I'll pull it up.
Acting like it's so
Teeny one. And barely putting in. What? Tons of them. Good at that one.
Who wants to sharpen the end of this, Sonny? Sharpen the end of that? Or Jake?
I will.
There you go, that's a good one. Alright. Yep. Gentle, whoop, gently. Make it long and skinny, Sonny, because it's got to go through the whole fish.
Yeah. And make that long and skinny. Oh, oh, oh.
I'm going to stick, break the stick. Turn it on a weird angle.
Shot, mate. That was some really good splitting.
I did. It looks like he's carving his. I did it a bit too thin.
No, mate, that's perfect. Just make the tip sharp, because we have to stick it right up the fish's.
Earlier, so you're going to stick it in the dark?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah. Oh, it tore through.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll do. Just see if you can cook it like that. Yeah.
Like that, eh?
No, I went into its head.
It was corn.
We're going to stay on? It's a curly one.
Maybe.
1, 2, 3, you got it. What's the market?
Is this one ready for it?
Or you can stand.
I don't know.
Now, surely they'll be dead there, right?
Yeah, maybe. Give that a go.
Crunchy one.
It's dead as, bro. Looks good to me.
And
That fire's pumping, eh?
oh, we still have a fishy. And yeah.
Another one. We'll bring that down. We'll put him on the rock as well.
Yeah, we're
So well speared.
Put it on.
One's done to this strategy here.
And then peel it off with your hands.
Ziggy. Here you go.
Yeah,
Eat 'em.
it's gone crazy.
Oh, it's too hot. Is that too hot, Zigs? Eat him. Eat him. Eat the fish. Another day, another dollar. Puppies need attention. I've got to move their cage over because they don't have enough of a playground.
Hi.
This is Pepe. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Pepe, not Pepe. Pepe.
Pepe.
And she is helping me look after the puppies for a few days so I can bugger off and come back and bugger off and come back. But right now we're going to move the puppies' pen into this forest here because they've got lots of energy and they're getting bored, so I figure if I move them into the woods they can rip around in the woods and the ferns and everything and have more fun, because currently they want out. Some of these dogs are so focused on the fence in front of them they can't look right or left and see the wide open spaces. Oh my God, freedom! You may have noticed that I'm sharpening both ends of the log here. What that does is not only does it enable one end to go into the ground easier, obviously the top end that I'm whacking if you bring the end in like this and round it off, which I haven't rounded it off very well, but I'll do that. If you round it off, it makes it less resilient to splitting when you hammer it, whereas if it was just flat and you start hammering it, it splits really easily. So this will enable me to get more hammer strokes without it splitting. If that makes sense. We're moving to puppy house. Look out! Look out! That's the first command they're going to learn, I think, is look out. That's a really good command to teach your dog, is look out. I taught it to all my dogs, and when you're carrying a heavy load, or they get in front of the car or behind the trailer, you go look out, and then get out of the way. It's even worked in town. I've yelled at Oi, look out, and she's jumped out of the way of a car before. Didn't work the other day, did it? Look out! There you go. That's a pretty good adventure playground for the pups. And now they get that all-day sun too, the morning sun and the afternoon sun, whereas before they were just getting probably from about 11 o'clock onwards. So now they get full-day sun, which is super important, I think. The search for ducks has come to a grinding halt because my trailer has just snapped in half. We haven't quite launched the boat and we're on the river, and I just drove over a big rock and the whole trailer bounced up and bounced down and drawbar snapped. So I'm going to have to find some way to fix that to get us home, probably a piece of wood, jam it down it, tie it on, rungy it up to get us at least up onto the hard where I can get some plates and a screw and bolt and fix it. So in the meantime, we'll find a piece of wood, jam it down the middle of the trailer and fix it that way. Pepe, could you come and stand on the boat just to keep it down? The weight of the boat's trying to rip the trailer up, so we'll get Pepe to stand on the boat, weight it down, and then I'll tie a couple of logs on each side to brace that trailer. And we'll launch the boat, see if we can go jet boating down this river and deal with the trailer when we get out.
The song have this one.
The song? What?
You say the song?
Sure.
No.
Oh, you have?
No.
What? What are you trying to say?
No. I just... Okay.
Wah, wah. We have small design flaw here. You see I tied it together, but then the trailer was connected. There was still a thin bit of metal holding it. That's now snapped and then it just pulled out. So I need to retie it. I'll just shorten it up and tie the drawbar onto the actual trailer a bit closer and connect that with the rope to the tow ball to stop it pulling out, and we'll get home that way. No worries, mate. Home's only about a couple of K down the road, so piece of piss.
Adventure. Hey.
Come on, pup.
Come.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm missing 5 puppies.
Some puppies don't follow you.
Okay, I'll go find them. I'm taking the dogs for a walk and some of them are missing in action. Oh, here's one. on, pups, come on. Oi, oi, come on. Come on, puppies.
Awesome. Come.
Some people think you will cook the dog.
And today's catch and cook. They're just along for the ride. They can all smell the fish we cooked in there, and they're scrounging around to eat the fish. It's probably quite good for them to get a bit of ash in their system. Start this off with fire lighting, but just a real quick one. It's amazing the amount of people out there that don't know how to light a good fire. So this is in a controlled area, and for our materials we've got some nice dry firewood out of the firewood stack, and for tinder we're going to find some dead plants, ideally somewhere that gets full sun and a lot of airflow, and vertical. The more vertical the better. Dried flowers work really good, any kind of dried plant stalk, but generally the dried flower stalk from a plant is going to be the best, such as flax or flax, dried leaves, cabbage tree leaves work really well, got lots of oil in them. Dried flax leaves work really well. Finding the dry leaves can be challenging, but if you look on the northern side of the tree where the sun hits the most and find the leaves that are under the rest of them, somewhere that's got a good airflow, most of the time you'll be able to find some dry wood. Any kind of dead standing wood's going to be good. And if it snaps, if it's got a nice dry snap to it, that's what you're looking for example. Good. Good. You fellas might have noticed I'm starting with the big bits on the bottom and building up to the small bits on the top. Now the reason for that is by lifting the fire up off the ground we get really good airflow, so it oxygenates the fire. And I've put a few smaller bits down the bottom as well, so the coals from the top can drop down into these bigger bits, but basically it's an upside down fire. Big bits on the bottom, small bits on the top. So now that I've got all that stuff, I'm just going to add my final touches, which is the little small bits of kindling on the top. Now bear in mind this is a controlled environment, so this wood here is really dry, it's out of my wood stack. So now what I'm going to do, I've got all my smaller medium bits there, so now I need some real super fine bits on the top, and I'm going to use my dried up flax for that, because flax is a real good fire starter. Got us a traditional palangi fire starter. Puppy's going to learn about fire today. Good idea is to always have 3-4 times as much kindling than you think you're going to need, especially if it's raining or if you're out in the bush, because you'll spend all this time gathering bloody wood to get your fire going, and then it goes out again and you've got to go start from scratch. It's really frustrating if it's the end of the day and it's getting dark, which more often than not that's the case. So just load up on dry kindling before you even start to build your fire. And even if you don't use it that night, you can put it aside and have it there for the morning. It's always a good idea too to have a real good stash set aside the next morning, somewhere dry, under cover, just in case it rains over the nights, so you can get up in the morning and chuck all your dry kindling on and not have to go look for it in the dark. How good! Be interesting to see how fast these puppies learn about fire. I think they get it. Looks like they're just instinctively staying away. A couple of them will come up and poke their nose at it, but then they shy away pretty quick, so we'll see what these other fellas do. Hey you boys, come over here. Puppies! Come on pups, come on! Come on pups, come on! Come on, come on puppies!
No more pole.
And there you have it, upside down fire.
Yes.
Pepe's going to light tomorrow's fire. She can't use an axe, so we're going to have to just get natural bits of wood, not prepared bits. But we'll move to the forest tomorrow and do a forest lighting fire in the woods. Most of you fellas already know how to do this, but there's heaps of people out there that don't, and I think this will be a real good opportunity to make a vid so that people who don't know how to light a fire in the bush can light one. We're just going to try go get a sneaky duck from down the lake here. There's a couple hanging out. Smoke one so you can go get it.
I don't know how to say this.
Oh, did you stop recording?
I don't know this.
Good girl. Go get him, Ziggy. Where's the duck, Ziggy? The bloody ducks are still out there floating around. Ziggy swam all the way out there, saw the ducks, turned around and came back again. Ziggy, go get the ducks. Go get them. I haven't taken her out in 2 years. 3 years since we got divorced. She hasn't been duck shooting, and she's forgotten how to fetch ducks. She swam all the way out there, did a circle around it, sniffed it, and came back in again. So we're going to have to go home, get the canoe, paddle out and get the bloody ducks for dinner. Ziggy. Where's the ducks? And that'll earn me for not taking her duck hunting more often. Gonna go show Ziggy how it's done. Come on, Ziggy. I don't actually fit into this kayak with my shoes on, so I'm just gonna straddle it and hope I don't tip out of it, out on the lake there. Come on, Ziggy. No, get off, Ziggy. Get down. Ziggy, get down. Ziggy, get off the boat.
Oh, sorry.
Get him. Oh. Ziggy's trying to climb onto the boat. She almost tipped me over then. That was close. I'm going to have to get a bit of distance on her, grab this duck and then go back, grab the other duck. I'll smoke 2 of them. Oh, nice fatty drake. Better skedaddle before Ziggy catches up and tips me in, then bloody be a long swim all the way back to shore. She's figured out that this boat is not built for man and dog. She's pretty smart. Not smart enough to get the bloody duck though. I'm going to go and chuck it from the shore, see if I can get her to fetch it. Hey Ziggy, what's this? Go get him. Good girl. Bring it here. Good girl, Zig. Bring it here. Get him, Ziggy. Man, she used to fetch ducks. What the hell? Good girl. What is that? Pluck the ducks. I'm going to chuck the wing for Ziggy now and see if she'll fetch it. Go get him. Good girl. Bring it here. Bring it here. Bring it here. Come on. Good girl. Bring it here. Good girl. Drop. Good girl. Go get him. Just like that, we got Ziggy fetching a wing. It's not a whole duck yet, but we're on the right track. And we've come to another environment now. This is in the Rainforest, a Takeout forest. It's quite damp, heaps of moss. Everything's wet. Even though we've had a week of sunny weather, it's still pretty wet in here, so it is going to be challenging to light a fire. Got a Bowie knife and a lighter. So I'm just taking stock of the environment, and I'm looking for some wood that's preferably northerly facing, in a northerly facing clearing so it gets sun all day. That'd be southerly facing if you're northern hemisphere. And somewhere where it's exposed, where it's going to get good wind flow, so I can already see a piece over the river there. It's some 5-finger or some pate, I think it's pate, that is dead standing, it's vertical, and it's in the sun, in the morning sun, and it's next to the river, so that's going to be really dry. What the heck? What the heck is that? Any mushroom folks out there? I found a weird mushroom. I've never seen one of these before, or never noticed them if I have seen them. It's growing on a, what kind of tree is that? Might be a kamahi. It's growing on a kamahi, and it's soft and spongy on the inside, gooey, and then the outside's got this weird brown texture. I wonder what kind of mushroom that is. This is the wood I was talking about over here. It's dead, standing in the sun. That's a 5-finger. This is actually what deer feed on in the wintertime. This is going to be quite suitable, I think. Some of it will be dry. This is the wood you want to use for primitive fire too, this Pate 5-finger. Really good for primitive fire. That looks dry and not rotten. It's a fine line between finding dry wood and rotten wood. Now if I move over to these takeout trees here, which I believe are a native cedar, there will be a lot of smaller twigs on the bottom end of the branches that we'll be able to snap off as well, and there should be some dry moss under there too. Now our birch that grows in New Zealand, which is kamahi is the native word for it, the Māori word for it, it's not as tarry as the northern hemisphere birch. A northern hemisphere birch you can basically peel off some of the dead bark and start a fire really easily. We don't have that luxury here in New Zealand. This takeout here does have some dry bark on the outside, but being in a rainforest it's quite damp. There's always a dry layer on the kānuka, but that's the only tree in New Zealand that will give you that luxury. Because everything's so wet under here and the moss is growing over everything, it's going to be really hard to find some dead standing twigs. They'll be here. So we've got to find somewhere with airflow and somewhere in the sun, which is going to be impossible in this forest because it's bloody moss everywhere and trees, and the sun doesn't really penetrate. But we'll find some dead standing stuff, just little twigs on the ends of trees. Remember, you want to get 10 times more kindling than you think you're going to need, because sometimes it takes a while to dry the wet wood out, and it's such a common mistake. You get the fire going, she just starts to come away, then you run out of small wood and she goes out. Well, here's a nice piece that's exposed to the air a bit more. There's a few flax bushes kicking around, but there's no flower heads on them. Flax flower heads are awesome. Such a good source of tinder. You can scrape them up, slice them thinly. One flax stalk's enough to get your fire going. Some of this moss too will be dry mid-afternoon if it's in the sun all day, so take note of that if you are in the woods and you know you're going to have to light a fire that evening. Mid-afternoon when it's hot and dry, gather all your kindling then, that's the best time to get it, and you can put it inside your jacket too. Pick some of that moss and some small twigs and put it inside your clothing to dry it out for an hour or so. What a score. I'm going to take this, make life easier in case the other stuff doesn't work. This is going to be a really dry bit of flax because it's sitting over the waterway next to the river and gets plenty of airflow, even though it's in the rainforest. It's been foggy all morning, it's a bit damp, but inside it will be dry. Now I've got all my wood together, I'm going to build a little platform with the dry wood on the bottom, just to keep that moisture in the ground from coming up and killing my fire as soon as it gets started. I'm just going to rip all my dry stuff off. If it's raining, what you can do is you can get the dry bits of kindling and you can put them inside your jacket, or if you've got a billy or a pot, you can pitch your tent and you can light the fire inside your billy, inside the tent, and then move it outside if it's hammering down with rain and you just can't get it going. If you don't have a lighter and some rubber or fire lighters, you could be in for quite a struggle to get the fire going. So it's better to come prepared and have a good lighter and a backup lighter or some backup matches. I carry one of these little lighters here, which is a windproof lighter, and I also have a backup lighter and some matches in a film canister or waterproof container, just in case. Because if you get hypothermia and you can't light a fire and you then have dry clothes in the tent, you're going to die. Preparation is always better than cure, I reckon. Right, I'll build this platform. I'll keep humming away until I get a real good platform, nice and high, and then I'll pull the dry stuff out of my pocket, cut some flax up for some nice tinder, and then we'll have a roaring fire going in no time. If it's really been hammering down, you might have to cut that wet outer layer of the wood off to expose the dry inner wood. And a really easy way to do that is just to make feather sticks, and pretty easy to do those. You just cut around the wood and then keep turning the wood and cutting, turning the wood and cutting, and you'll end up with a whole bunch of fine pieces like so. And you can snap that off and poke that in your fire, or you can gather all the dry bits off the ground and use those. Another method you can use is just chop the wood up into kindling. Over the years working in survival stuff on television, I have got quite a few comments from the safety guy saying that I'm using my knife incorrectly because I've got my finger underneath the knife as I'm chopping down, but there's a technique that I use. I'll show you fellas that. I hold the knife quite loosely but firmly, if that makes sense, loosely but firmly, so it doesn't go flying out, just enough to keep it in my grip, and then I'll swing it, and I'll actually have the hilt of the knife butting up against my palm so I can get a chopping action, but the knife stops. I'll use this with a tomahawk as well, so I can actually get a good chop, but the knife's going to stop, and even if I miss that wood, it won't hit my fingers. So it's a good technique to learn. Always keep your knives sharp as I like to stone my knives with a water stone. This is a Samuel Harrison custom Bowie knife. She's a harm-dinger. Something to bear in mind when you fellas are getting your fire going is you want a heap of airflow in there, so don't make it too tight, too condensed. The more airflow you get, the better. And that's another real good reason for lighting these upside down fires, is there's so much space on the bottom. If you stack your logs an inch or so apart, or your sticks an inch or so apart, there's going to be plenty of airflow. Once that fire grabs a hold, it's going to start sucking that air up the bottom. It's almost like one of those Indian fires, a hole in the ground, or a smokeless fire. You can dig 2 holes and join them with a tunnel and light your fire over one of the holes, and as it starts drawing, it sucks air through the other hole and through the tunnel and forces air up through the fire as soon as you get a bit of heat, and that'll create a smokeless fire and also help the fire to draw a lot better. But you've got to find dirt that you can dig a hole in and join the tunnels. It's quite satisfying once you get it going, but there's a bit of fluffing around to get it there. Feather stick. I just spent all that time making my fire pile nice and beautiful and even and lots of airflow, and then I got another piece of wood and kicked this bit of wood that was underneath it and then knocked it all over. It's a good idea too to have a backup stash of dry wood, smaller bits next to your fire, so that when you do start it you can feed little bits in and little bits in and just give it a bit of encouragement till it's away. because if you chuck all your kindling on your fire and don't have a backup stash, and she starts to go out, then it burns all your fine bits and you have to start again. Better to do it once, do it right, and put a bit of time into it, I reckon. This is a weta we just found. It's a prehistoric insect, that one. Looks like he's playing dead. Oh, he's alive there. Whoa, here he goes. We're ready to go now. I'm just going to cut some flax stalk up for the final touch right on the top, and we'll use that to get the initial fire going. This flax stalk's super easy to cut. It's really soft, and it's always dry on the inside if it's vertical standing. It's really, really good tinder, and you can actually scrape it with the knife and make a powder or very fine shavings. And if you've got a steel or ferrodium rod, flint and steel, you can use the sparks off the flint and steel to get the fire going with the powdered up flax stalk. It's really good for starting fires, this stuff. Doesn't burn very long though, she burns really quick, so make sure you got a good stash of it. See if this moss is dry enough to fire up, eh? So as you can see, this moss isn't quite dry enough to start burning. Still a bit damp. So I've discovered I haven't cut that flax fine enough. I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to shave a little bit more flax off, so I've got some really fine bits of flax stalk, not the leaves, because these leaves are still quite damp because it's so wet here and it's been misty all night. So I'm just going to spend a bit more time shaving some really fine bits of flax stalk off, and then I'll try to light that again. That's why it's really important to have a good lighter, and preferably some fire starters, which I don't have. I'm just using the flax, but we'll get it going. You can see the importance of having a little stash of dry stuff right next to you as you're trying to get it going. It's really hard to get fire going in this rainforest. It's not going yet. We're not out of the woods. But I reckon we'll get there. Everything is so wet in here, it's crazy. As you fellas can see, I'm still tending to this fire. When we had a controlled environment with dry wood, dry kindling, dry big bits, everything was dry, we could just light the fire and leave. But because this wood is also wet, I'm still cutting little bits of fine kindling and adding it to the top and tending it and blowing on it. And it's still not roaring, it could still go out. As you can see, I had a pretty good pile of dead wood to get this thing going, and I've almost used all of my dead wood and it's still not roaring.
Bashed
We've
the
got
old
fire
drawbar
now.
out, and then
it's
the
pretty
one that
stable.
snapped, I bashed
So as
back
you can
in
see,
the front
because
end.
I've built
It's
that
not gonna be
upside
as
down
long,
fire, it's
probably
slowly
safer
burning
because
its
it's
way
so
down
long,
into
it's
the
flexing
pile
a bit.
now, and as it
And that's
burns
probably
its
why
way
it broke,
down
so
and those coals drop
I
into
won't
the
have that
stack,
big, nice
it's going to
long
dry
drawbar to poke
that
it
wood
into
off
the river,
that's
but
in the
that
bottom
trailer
fully.
was originally a jet ski
So
trailer.
I could go away and
With a
leave this
jet boat
fire
on
now
it,
for
so
about
if
10
you've got a
minutes,
jet
15
ski
minutes,
trailer,
come back
jet
and it
boat
would
on
still be
it,
going.
check
I'd go
that
get some
drawbar.
bigger bits, get it roaring, but we're not going to do that. We'll just let it burn out and put it out, and we'll try to find a mountain environment to light a fire. I've been fortunate enough to travel all over the world to many different countries, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, on the equator,
and we're away.
northeast, south, west, and light fires in many of these different environments. The New Zealand rainforest has got to be the hardest environment in the world to get a fire going that I've experienced so far. It's pretty challenging. The only other place that comes close would be the Pacific Northwest, and the jungles down in South Central America can be pretty challenging if it's been raining for a week. Here we are, Alpine environment. I'm not going to show you fellas how to light a fire in the Alpine environment. I'm just going to show you this particular plant. This here is turpentine. It's a pretty recognisable plant. That's where you need to light fire in the New Zealand mountains. Get some turpentine. There's always going to be dry wood on the turpentine bush, and it actually burns wet too, or burns green once you get the fire going. You can hack big green logs up, biff them on, and they'll burn. And you can see how well this turpentine burns right there. It is an amazing plant, it really is. Here are good dogs. How you doing, fellas? You okay? How's it going? Yes. God, trying to dig a hole with the puppies around. You guys should be helping me dig. Get out of it. Holy crap. What I'm building here is a smokeless fire. It's got a name, I can't remember. The American Indians come up with it, one tribe. Can't remember who it was, the Iroquois or who it was, but essentially it's two holes in the ground and then a tunnel joining those holes, so when you light your fire, it sucks the oxygen from one hole up and then forces it through the other hole, and because there's so much oxygen, it burns without smoke. There's a wee bit of smoke to get it going, but once she's humming, no smoke at all, and it burns really hot. It's quite a good way to light a fire, just a bit of fluffing around with the digging. Follow, follow. This is another really good fire technique. You can put all the logs together. 4 logs will suffice, but if you get a few more, you can just slowly burn them in towards each other and keep poking them in. Really good for cooking, and then once you've cooked your dinner, you just chuck a few more twigs on and huss it up, and then you just slowly poke your logs in. This fire's been burning for about an hour, and I went away and left it and came back, and as you can see, it doesn't take much to stoke it back up. Just give her a bit of a shake, poke those logs into the centre, and she'll fire up again. Music. What you got, Wiggy? Got a stick? Back into it. Old mate Ollie Craig's has turned up. He makes productions as well on the old internet. Heap of free diving and spearfishing and hunting. He's just been down tar and chamois hunting, and he dropped us a line. Wants to come boil his heads. We'll get the fire humming, and we'll put the copper pot on said fire and boil them up, and while that's happening, we'll go for a burn in the jet boat, see if we can find some ducks. I actually just found out that they sell gas here at the local service station. I didn't think they did, but they've got swapper bottles, so we didn't even have to light the fire, but it looks way better, and I had it set up from yesterday from the smokeless fire video I did, so anyway, now that we've lit it, we don't really need to. Change of plans, we're going to gas it. Check out these 2 heads he got. So that's 10 inches usually from fingertip to thumb tip, so 13, both over 13. That's a cracking head. I might use that as a thumbnail. People are going to be real pissed off. I thought it was tar hunting, but no, it's a tar head boiling video. Show us your chamois, bro.
No, I don't know what happened.
No, we won't show you the chamois. That one's going to stay in the bag.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
That's a cool head, eh? We're real close together.
Yeah, a little narrow curvy one, eh?
That's real cool.
Big cracks in the fall down. Went flying off a bluff, but managed to keep the tips. But yeah, it's cracked in there. That's the only damage. Yeah, not super old, but
Pretty
I don't
good,
care.
though.
I'm pretty happy.
I guess now that Doc have been bombing the shit out of the tar, the bulls that are left are growing better because there's way more feed for them.
Shoot his eyeballs out, but
It's an okay chamois. I thought it was going to be a baby one. I've shot heaps of baby chamois. Oh, that's sweet as. Yeah. You know what we say about those ones? We say that's a great representative trophy. In other words, it's a shit head. But that's alright, because we all shoot shit heads. It was his first chamois too, so you're allowed to shoot a shit one. Frosty. We just had a crack of frost. I don't want to get rid of these little fellas. They're so cute. Hello. How are you? How are you today? Good? No, we're freezing cold and hungry. Feed us. Crisp, frozen goodness. Fresh snow on the hill a few days ago. This is a second boil for the tar heads. They'll be good to water blast in about an hour. We went for a hunt last night, but we didn't see anything, so I'm not going to put any of the footage in there because it was just us nature walking and boring. My God, what a racket! Hello, puppies! Training begins. Sweet Jesus. Feeding time at the zoo. Oh, it is crisp today in the woods. Going to start this fire again to keep us all warm because it's so bloody cold. Charcoal's actually an accelerant, so I've pushed these log ends together to make the fire easier to start. And I'm just going to drop all the bits of kindling in the middle and light it, and I've still got that hole in the ground in the tunnel to the other hole from the other day. Hopefully the pups will figure out pretty soon that this fire is the place to be. It is really cold today. Oh, time for another fire. Bloody puppies have dragged my saw off somewhere. I can't find it. This fire is a sandwich fire. I've used it several times overseas, mind you, in the northern hemisphere, not here in New Zealand. Reason being, it's really hard to find a suitable wood. You've got to find dead standing totara or silver pine. Northern hemisphere woods work much better because they're quite sappy, and you can even use a green sappy pine to do this kind of fire. But New Zealand, pretty challenging because the wood needs to be fairly dry, so either dead standing totara, dead standing silver pine, any kind of wood that's going to be dry inside, which is pretty difficult to find. So not really a suitable New Zealand survival fire, but it's pretty cool, so I'm going to show it to you fellas anyway. Essentially, you just get a dry log, you split it in half, you light a fire on top of the log, get the burning, so you want both bits of wood with embers on them. Once you've done that, you sandwich one piece of wood on top of the other piece of wood, and you use rocks at each end to hold the two logs together so they don't collapse. If that makes sense, because if you just balance them on the ground, they're going to burn through and fall over. So you stack rocks at this end, stack rocks at that end, just to hold the two bits of wood there, and it will burn, depending on what kind of wood it is, 5, 6, 7 hours. Sometimes you might have to scoop the ashes up and put them on 2 other bits of wood, so it's a good idea to have a spare bit of wood there if you're using it in a survival scenario. But what you will end up with is a glowing natural heater. You can even light one on each side and sleep in the middle of them if you've got shelter or if you're under an overhang. It's a really good way to keep the fire going all night and to have a good source of heat. And just got to be careful you don't roll into it and set yourself on fire. I'm going to build that now. I've used some toltera here, a dry bit that I got off the beach. It's been standing upright for a while, so she's pretty dry inside. And I'll light a fire on top, and once she's going, I'll set my rocks up at each end, sandwich the fire, and then we'll just have a natural radiator, and that'll burn for a few hours. I'm going to time how long it burns for today, actually, because I don't know how long toltera burns for. I've done it in the Northern Hemisphere a few times, but I've never built this kind of fire here in New Zealand, actually, because I've never had to, and like I said, it's not really a suitable fire for the New Zealand wilderness. And it's not really a suitable fire for the New Zealand wilderness because it's really hard to find dead standing wood in our forest because it's so wet it rots down pretty quick. Northern Hemisphere though, or exotic pine plantations, different story. It's going to be pretty easy to find dead standing. Alright, crack into it. Now, if you don't have any logs or rocks, you can actually drive green stakes into the ground. Just be aware that these green stakes may burn through and then your log will roll off the top. And interestingly enough, for this fire, the bottom log always burns out first before the top log. I was busy doing office work and wasn't tending my fire, and it's burnt the underside of the log as well. But that's alright, I'll set it up. You guys will get the gist of the idea of how it works, and I'll put a time lapse on it so you can see how it slowly burns down, and you've got yourself a natural radiator. Bloody battery went flat before the log burned all the way through. It's been a couple of hours, but you guys get the gist of it.
I just wonder if I can knock these ones off. Cooked enough. Probably should have put them.
Oh, that one broke. Yeah. Okay. Bloody nuts today. We've had really big tides, and the tides have ripped down the sandbar and ripped the puppies out and the cockles and just left them strewing along the edge of the water, so we just walk along and pick them out of the sand. Easy. Right, a couple of close-ups of the hand.